fake news and alternative facts, I mean, they're birds that have been bantered around, have suddenly come into our dictionaries.
Yeah. Well, I think that we can, you know, sort of, there's a trivial interpretation of it. It's fake. It's fake. Because if it's fake, I don't have to deal with it. So you take a view. You might say, you know, whatever I've got to say on any particular matter is fake. You're just making it up. So you don't have to deal with it. You can dismiss it. So we have this objective reality. Gravity, the wind blows, the sun shines. You know, you can say the sun's fake, but you'll still get the sunburn. Or you can have the subjective reality, which is I actually just don't believe that X is the case, so I can just reject it.
This sort of sounds like global warming to me.
Well, that's we'll maybe get onto it a bit later. But global warming's sort of the easy thing to call fake is the causal relationship. So we'll say it isn't people, it isn't burning hydrocarbons, it isn't CO2 that's creating global warming. So we don't have to do anything about it because we aren't connected to why it's happening. It's just happening and there's nothing we can do about it. So you can dismiss a lot of the science by attacking the causal problem. So this happens and causes this to happen. No, that's all fake. Let's worry about that.
The sad thing is, and we'll talk about him shortly, no doubt, but this has all come about the same time as Trump's arrival.
Well, that's the sort of the way that Trump used social media. So we've now got these Twitter bots and bots on Facebook that talk to people of certain profiles who are feeling probably very legitimately hard done to. You're in Midwest, small town America. The factory that kept the town alive has closed. It's no longer there. The promise of the world for the people there is sort of crumbling. The house or the property they've got becomes worth less because there's no call for the jobs. You know, there's echoes of this around New Zealand, and particularly rural New Zealand. And so it's easy to say to those people, things are bad because of, you know, the Chinese took our jobs. Well, maybe. It might be a different way that the owners of the companies chased the lowest production price and went to China. The Chinese didn't steal anything. It's back to that causal. What caused it to happen? What was the driver behind that? So you can get angry at the Chinese, but you're not getting angry at probably the right people to focus on. Okay,
post-truth.
Well, we are now having, it's fake news, the argument, why do you want to investigate Russian ties? There aren't any. So why do you want to investigate it? So Mr. Comey, you know, let Mr. Flynn off. Oh, maybe not. Okay, well, we'll just fire you. Because again, that issue is, I don't think there's a problem, so there isn't a problem. And for the people who are in that echo chamber, they see the comment that there isn't a problem as almost an act of faith. You know, we think about religion. On this side of an act of faith, you're looking for objective evidence for religion. On the other side of an act of faith, you don't need objective evidence because you've gone through that transition. And for a lot of some groups in politics, we've gone through the act of faith. So whatever an individual says is what really is the fact. And so Trump says fake news. Trump talks about complete rubbish. And for some people it's true. But then you go, we've got a worry about terrorism. Terrorists are Muslims, therefore all Muslims are terrorists, therefore ban the Muslims. That sort of logic process drives people to the post-truth world, which is when I distort reality enough, it becomes the new reality.
This is Hitler and the Jews.
It could well be. I mean, that's another extreme version of we have a problem, that particular group is the problem, now we have to deal with that particular group, and the excesses get greater and greater and greater. And remember, with Hitler, the early part of the 30s, it was all happening and people were saying, oh, it won't be that bad, it's not really that bad. A lot of the echoes are what we hear around our friend Trump.
Winston Churchill just fell on deaf ears. He said it's going to be a
That's
problem.
right.
No one would. No one listened.
He was not alone, but he was in the minority for a long time pointing to the problem.
So, rumours, and this is a sort of the scuttlebutt, you know, that so-and-so is doing this or doing that, and all of a sudden it becomes...
Oh, the guy shows up with a gun at a pizza parlour somewhere on the East Coast because it's in the rumour mill that Hillary Clinton's running a child pornography group out of this pizza place. And it is that on the distribution, there are some people that will literally believe almost anything.
And people who've half heard what you've just said will go, really?
Well, I hope not. I hope not. But that sort of difficulty becomes now, we are taking away the common basis for argument. So if you or I are having an argument about politics or something, there has to be a foundation between us in order to have a sensible discussion. Otherwise, it degenerates to the 5-year-olds in the playground. Will, won't. Yes, no. It becomes an argument of position rather than, well, we can agree on this. Yes, yes, okay. So can we agree on this? No, we can't. Well, let's take that apart and talk a little bit more about that. Now, if we think about that, that's the democratic process.
Are we at risk of losing our democracy?
That's what is fundamentally threatened in this sort of fake news, post-truth era. If we can't agree to have a sensible argument one step at a time, and all we do is polarize, then there is no democratic discussion possible.
So where does science and technology come into all this?
Well, that's now where the sort of rubber hits the road. We can argue about politics, right and left of politics. We can argue about economics and causal relationships. But science is the place where objective reality must matter. Because if we say this happens causing climate change in this way, if we understand the causal relationships, we can start to change behaviors and change what we do in order to put things right. But if we don't understand the relationships, well, we don't, or completely reject the relationships, we don't have to do anything, and we can turn on the Keystone Pipeline, we can drill more oil, we can run bigger, we can do all those things, which you might do differently if you recognize that doing this leads to climate change. Climate change is a problem for a lot of people, including a lot of Americans, and it will need to be dealt with sooner rather than later. It's the old asteroid problem. If you give it a push when it's a long way out, you don't have to push it really hard when it's just about to collapse into the planet.
Very briefly, how do you get around the fact that some people love Holdens and some people love Fords, and you'll never get them to drive either?
And that's fine. And that, at one level, not a worry. You take your view, but the people who show no particular bias towards Holden or to Ford can make a legitimate, balanced decision.
Yep.
What you can't do is apply that polarization to everybody.